Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
So, the first speaker today, coming all the way from India, with 10 years of MVP experience, to talk about something that is not 10 years old. He's going to be talking about AI. Please welcome Sumit.
Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to be here. And I'm told that I only have 40 minutes. So I'll now get right into the session and show you the stuff that I have. So I hope you've had your morning coffee, your breakfast. So sit back, relax, because for the next 40 minutes, I will take you to the beautiful world of AI within Excel formulas. And most of my work is going to be within the Excel sheet. So there's not going to be a lot of PPT involved. All right, so before I get into the Excel sheet, I quickly wanted to get a sense check. How many of you here have used ChatGPT? Show of hands. Almost everyone. Now, how many of you have heard or used this Excel add-in called Excel Labs? Show of hands. Some of you. And how many of you have heard or used about this function called labs.generative AI? Show of hands. Not many. So this is the function that I'm going to focus on, and this is a new function. It is barely a year old, and with this function, you can use ChatGPT right within a formula in Excel. Now, you all who have used ChatGPT would think within Excel, it's probably useless, because what it can do is probably give you a message or write Boriana speech. But what can we actually do in Excel when we have data? So let me show you a few examples, and hopefully, by the time I'm done with this session, you will start thinking about AI a little differently, okay? So let's get into the Excel sheet. Now, the first thing I want to show you is how to get this function. It's free, it's available, but it's probably the only function in Excel that costs money to use it, because you cannot use this function. You will have to connect this function with the servers of OpenAI, so you need to have an API key, and I'll show you everything how it works. So here I'm going to go to the Home tab, and when I click on this add-ins option and go to More add-ins, it opens this dialog box where you can search for this plugin, this add-in called Labs. And this is this add-in usually gets these features which are in beta testing. So they're not being rolled out to everyone. They're testing here. That is why labs.generative AI. And once they have been tested, they would probably be rolled out as regular function in Excel. So you search for Labs here, and you can get Excel Labs, and you can install it. I've already added it, so I'll not do that. And when I then click on Excel Labs, here I have these new functions that are there. So let me close this. So here, when you open Excel Labs, you will see there are 3 functions as of now. This might change in the future. But what I'm going to focus on is this function called labs.generative AI. Now, to use this function, you need to, as I mentioned, you will have to connect it to OpenAI, and you will not be able to use this function without that connection. So to do that, you click on this thing called Open, and here you need to configure API key. Now, this is very simple. You click on this, it'll give you all the instructions. You click on this option called Get Your API Key here. It is going to take you to OpenAI platform. Now, if you already have an account, you can log in. If you do not have an account, you can create it. It's free. And when you get in, you will have to put some money into it. And this function will not work if you do not put anything. You can start with as low as $5, and it is very cheap. So every time you run this function, it is going to cost you a few cents. So I've put, I think, $15 initially, and I've been running it for many, many days, I think a few months now. So it doesn't cost a lot of money, but you will have to put the money here to start using this function. Once you have put the money, you can go to this option here in APIs, and you create your own API. Again, very simple, just click on this create new secret key. It'll create an API for you. You copy it from here, and you put it in the function. Now, just remember that first you put the money, and then you create the API key. The other way doesn't work somehow. Once you have the API key and you copy it, you go back to Excel, and you put that API key here, and you're good to go. Now you can go into Excel, and you can start using this function. But before that, there are a few settings I want to talk about. And this session, it is going to be about how to use this function, but I also want you to understand how it actually works, because when you understand how AI works, then you can actually use it a lot better. So here, the first thing you need to choose when you're working with this function is the model that you would use. Now, there are 3 models, and these are OpenAI models. 3.5 turbo, 3.5 turbo 16K, and 4. Now, every successive model is going to be better. And when I say model, it means the kind of training data that has been used to train the model. So GPT 3.5 has been trained on millions of data points, which means that when you ask this model a question, it has a lot of knowledge already behind it that it will use to answer the question. But when we go to GPT 4, then it has been trained on a lot more data points. So the model is better, but at the same time, GPT 4 is going to cost you a little bit more money, and it is going to be slightly slower because more data, more data crunching is happening in the backend. Microsoft has kept GPT 3.5 Turbo as the default option, and you can go with the default option. It is cheap, it is good enough, and when you get a hang of how to use this function, you can test out different models. GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K, just to explain what it is the same as GPT 3.5 Turbo with just a little bit of higher token limit, which means you can generate longer text with it. For this demo, I'm going to stick with GPT 3.5 Turbo. Then there is a setting called temperature. This is very, very important, and I'll try and simplify this for you. So what technically it means is it controls the randomness of the model. So if I make this setting as 0, temperature value as 0, it means that my model is very deterministic. By very determined, it will give me the same answer to the question. So if I ask it, let's say, a question, then it is going to give me the same answer. But if I increase that value a little bit, let's say I make it 0.5, 0.6, then my model becomes a bit more creative. So it will answer my question, but it will answer my question a bit more creatively. And if I increase this to, let's say, 1 or 1.5 or 2, then it will start hallucinating. So then it would be like talking to a drunk person who's not being able to answer anything, just gibberish. So to give you an example, if I set the temperature value to 0 and I ask this a question, I want to arrange a kid's birthday party, what should I do? Then it'll give me an answer, get cake, get balloons. And if I ask this question 100 times, it would give me similar answer, get cake, get balloons, get cake, get balloons, because the model is very deterministic. It has no creativity. But if I increase this value to, let's say, 0.6, 0.7, or even 0.5, then it becomes a bit more creative. So if I ask the same question, it'll say, get cake, get balloons, have a theme party, order pizza, maybe have a dress code, maybe invite a clown or something. So it has more creativity. I can ask more questions. But if I jack it up to, let's say, 1.5 or 2, then it'll go crazy. It'll say, take a rocket and go to Mars. Or it'll probably start giving you results in some different language or even some characters, some gibberish. So in this case, usually when you're working with these models, these are called large language models, which needs a little bit of creativity. Usually the accepted setting is 0.7, but in Excel, Microsoft has kept it as 0.5 because we are not really working with a lot of text data, or we're not generating text. We're trying to work with actual data. So you can keep this setting as 0.5, again, the basic setting. Maximum output length, 256, just means that you will be the output would be somewhere close to 200 words. These two, I'm not going to get into the frequency penalty and presence penalty, but the idea here is that it will help your model not be repetitive. So if there is repetition, then these values take care of it. So the default setting are good. You can just put in the API key and you start using the model. The only thing I changed here is this option called use content moderation. Now, AI sometimes can give you results which are a bit offensive or harmful. And this model is going to filter those records out. And I was trying in different use cases, and sometimes it would give a value error in my formula. And I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to turn this setting off, but again, experiment with it. So that's it. My settings are all set, and I can now come here in Excel, and I can use this formula, labs.generative.ai. Now, this function takes 4 arguments. You only need to give it one, which is the prompt. The prompt, just like ChatGPT, you give it something, it is going to go to OpenAI servers, get the result back to you, and I'll show you some examples. The next 3 prompts are optional, where the temperature setting, the max token settings, and the model. I've already explained all these 3. If you want your formula to override any of these settings, then you can specify it here. So if I don't want the temperature setting to be 0.5, I want it to be 0.7, then I can specify it here. But for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to stick with the prompt here only. Okay, so this is the basics of the function. You now all know how to use labs.generative.ai. Now let's look at some examples. So the first example I want to show you is very useless example, of course, is write a poem about Excel or write a short story. Now, this is not my example. This is there in Microsoft documentation. So they put this as one of the use cases. I don't know who's going to use it that way. But you can do it. So let me show you how it works and what actually happens. And I'm going to start with a couple of useless examples, but my idea here is to explain what is happening in the cell, what is happening, how it's working, and then probably move on to some useful examples. So here, the function, the only prompt I take it, write a poem about Excel, and now when I hit enter, it is going to go to the API call is being made to the server. Server generates the text, brings it back here, and now I have a poem. Now if you read this, it's fine, it's okay. But what is happening in the backend is, OpenAI has a training data set. We use GPT 3.5, millions of data points, it has a training data set, and it knows things about Excel. It knows things about writing a poem. So Excel, it knows about rows and columns and everything. And writing a poem, it knows about meter and rhyme and rhythm. So it combined both of these and created something for us. And this is how AI is going to work. It is going to rely on the knowledge that it already has. Now, we can also write a short story here, so I can just drag this down. Same thing happens. Call is being made to the server, and this gives me this story here. Now, whether it's a good story or a bad story, I'm not going to get into that, but it does work. So your function has quickly got you this short story. I'm not going to read the entire thing. I'll share this file with you so you can experiment with it. But the idea here is that with this function, we are generating something. We are giving it a prompt, and it's generating something. To give you another example here, I have the same prompt, which is write me a 4-line funny poem about Excel, but I want to make it specific about countries. So I want to make it specific about Bulgaria or India or US. So I can come here and I can use the prompt. So this is my prompt where I say, refer to this cell, which is A2, which has the prompt, write a funny poem. Also make it specific to Bulgaria, which is cell B2. And can you add more cultural references about the country? Now, this is a prompt. You can play around with the prompt, but let's see what it gives us. And you guys can validate whether this is right or not. In Bulgaria's land of yogurt and roses, Excel sheet brings joys in doses. From Rila Monastery to Vitosha's peak formula functions make data sleek. Now, I don't understand some of the words here, but I hope you guys do. So this is doing a good job. So what it's doing is now, there are 3 filters. Writing a funny poem, Excel, and Bulgaria. So now it combined all these, this knowledge, this data it had, and it wrote these. Now I can just replicate it for all these other countries. So let's do that. And everyone can read. For example, I can validate for India whether that is okay or not. All right. Yeah, this is where it's working on it, and with good internet, it should fast. But yeah, here you have it. So yeah, for the US, in the land of stars and stripes, Excel reigns supreme. Formulas and functions are like a sweet ice cream dream. From sea to shining sea, spreadsheets we create with glee in the USA. Excel is the tool that sets us free. So, good poem, bad poem, funny, maybe that's a subjective thing, but it's actually doing what I'm asking it to do. Now, as I said, these are useless examples. No one is going to write a poem or a short story in Excel. But what I've shown you in this case is this is generative AI. I gave it a prompt and it generated something. So this is something you've already seen with ChatGPT. ChatGPT does this. Now we can do this within a cell in Excel, although you probably don't want to. Now, when you're working with data in Excel, you don't want to generate stuff. You want to analyze stuff. You want to clean data. You don't want to write poems. So can AI help us in that case? It can. So let me show you a few examples. And I hope that AI will not fail me, because I need to tell you, AI is very unpredictable. I will ask it something and it will give me different response every time. So let's get this straight. If anything goes wrong, just remember, I'm the good guy. We blame AI, okay? Okay? So now, let's start with a very simple example. I have these 3-letter codes for the month, and I want the full month name. Now, Excel does not have a way of doing it, and there is this running joke in the Excel community that if you use flash fill, that gives you funny results. Anyone has any idea what will flash fill do if I run this? Yeah, so if I run flash fill, yeah, so this is what it does. Now, flash fill is actually a very small version of AI, because it has a training data, which is this data that I gave, And then it relied on this training data to give me the results, which is somewhat what AI also does. But what it does not realize is that these are not right because the training data is very small. And obviously, these are wrong results, so I cannot use this. But I can use AI in this case. Now, one more thing I wanted to quickly highlight is I am going to use some short codes here. So what I've done is, because I did not want to waste time in writing these long prompts, I have already written these prompts and put it in the backend. And I'm going to use some short prompts that are going to quickly fill these. For example, something like XBG3 or XBG4. And as soon as I type that, you'll hear a poop sound, and it is going to put the formula there, just for the purpose of saving time. So let's remove this, and let me use the formula. So this is, if you're interested, this is a tool called Text Expander, so it allows you to be more productive and use this. So you can use it anywhere, in Excel or outside Excel. But this is my prompt, which is, give me the one-word full month for Jan. And now when I hit enter, it is going to give me the result, and I can apply it for all these cells. Worked. Now, what is happening is, this is relying completely on the knowledge AI has already. So it understands that when I say Feb, I mean February. Excel does not have that thing. So it's something that you cannot do within Excel, you can do with AI, because it has a small brain of its own. Yesterday I was actually playing with this, and this is what I wanted to show you in this example, but I was playing and something interesting happened. If I come here and I type something like, let's say, Jan and March, AI actually understands this. My prompt is not good, my prompt is still old, I can refine the prompt, but if I use this, AI actually understands this and gives me January, February, March. So now if you have a data like this, and I can come here, I can text split and put it in different columns. So I was trying it out for all these, and it was working fine. Now the idea here is, AI is relying on its knowledge. It understands that when I say Feb to August, and I want full word month name, it gives me the entire month list. Now, if this doesn't work in your case, you can refine the prompt a little bit. And so here is another prompt you can use. So I've expanded the prompt a little bit. I've said, give me the one-word full month name for this. For example, if I give you Jan to April, give me January, February, March, April as the result. Now, this is very, very important, because what I've done here is, I've not just given it a prompt, I've given it an example, and I want AI to refer to that example. This is the case also with ChatGPT. If you're working with ChatGPT, the more context you give it, the better result you will get. Now, I can test it, and again, this is just last-minute thing I was trying, but this is working. Another thing you need to know is, just because I gave it an example and I asked it to give me one full word, it does not mean it is going to stick to it. It might not. For example, in this case, it gives me this extra full stop in the end. But this is something I can live with. Maybe I can just use a simple replace formula to just get rid of it. But the idea is, something which is like a messy data, or if you get this here, this is, you cannot do this in Excel with the built-in tools, but you can do this with Excel because it has its brain. Now, let's see some examples which are hopefully more useful than these simple ones. So here, I have these names. So I have the names of these wonderful speakers here. I've just wrote some lines. And what I want to do is, I want to extract the name from this text. And you can see these are all, this is all not in a consistent format. So if I ask you to create a formula for this, I don't think you'll be able to create it. And even if you're able to, it is going to be a very complex formula, because the formula has to account for all the situations, all the variability that is going on. And even if you create a formula, I can just come and change a little bit, a few things, and your formula would break. AI, on the other hand, is smart enough to realize what a sentence structure is, what is a subject, what is a predicate, what is noun, what is verb. If I have this sentence, it may not know anything about Abiola David, but it does understand that this is where a name would go, because everything else has been categorized into something else. So I can use AI and try and extract the name from this case. So let me try here. I hope AI is going to work in this case. So this is my prompt. The prompt is, give me just the first and the last name from this cell. Just give me the first and the last name as output, nothing else. For example, Sumit Bansal. Now I'm doing, apart from the prompt, I'm doing two more things. I am reiterating the prompt, because if you just give one single prompt, AI might start hallucinating, might start deviating. So I reiterate the prompt again, and then I also give it an example. And the more example you give, the better. For example, if you see sometimes that AI is not working fine with your data set, you can choose that and just give that as an example. Give the expected result that you want, and then it is going to probably work better. So let's see what happens. Worked fine, and let's do it for all these cells. Perfect. All the names. Now, there was a possibility that AI would give me something like the name is Chandeep Chhabra, but again, that is a problem I can live with because it is actually extracting the name. But in this case, it has given me all the names rightly. Now, one more thing you need to know is when I use this formula in one cell, that has nothing to do with what is going on in other cell. So when I use the formula in a cell, an API call is made to the server, the result is generated, it brings it back here. But then in this formula, in the next cell, what is happening is completely independent of the first one. So if you ask me whether this is a small data set, would this work in a longer data set, larger data set? It would, because these are all independent queries. I've tried it for 10 names or 9 names, and it has worked. You can try it for 100, 200, and see whether it is giving you the right result or not. But whenever you're using these formulas, these AI formulas, try it on a smaller data set. If it works, revise your prompt a little bit. If it's working fine, then try it on a longer data set, and that is going to help you perfect your prompts. So this is one example. Now let me show you another example here. So here, this is a slightly different data set. These are addresses, and this is again not consistent. So I have house number, sometimes I have the name, sometimes I have city, sometimes I have state, where state could be the full name, or it could be just a code like OR for Oregon. So now I want to extract this data. Let me again quickly show it to you. So here I want to extract the city name, and this is fairly simple. Just like I extracted the first and the last name, I can extract the city name. So I can have my prompt here as this. So my prompt here is, give me the city name from this address. Just give me the city name as output, nothing else. For example, Chicago. Again, I gave it the prompt, then I reiterated the prompt, and then I gave it an example. Now I'm just giving one single example, but you can give it like 4 or 5 examples if you want, and it is going to work a lot better. Let's see if it works. So yes, it has given me Portland here, and let's drag it down for all these. And yes, it is working. And thankfully, AI has been kind so far. When I was trying this at home, sometimes it wouldn't just work. So thankfully, AI has been nice. But if things go wrong, the idea here is expect things to go wrong. AI will hallucinate. AI will give you results that are not exactly what you're asking for. In those cases, you have your exceptions. You can just redo the prompt and see what works. And sometimes you have to just work with the messy data that AI even gives you. But in this case, it has worked beautifully. So let's work with state, and as I said, state is a little bit different here because I have the state name, but I sometimes also have the state code like OR or IL. So let's see if AI is going to work in this case or not. So XBG62. So here again I have my prompt. Give me the state name from the address. Just give me the state name, nothing else. And an example is Ohio. And now when I run this, hopefully it will work. It has. So you can cross-check if everything is working or not. But one interesting thing happens here, which again makes AI quite useful in this case is, if I give you this data set and I ask you to extract the state name only, you can probably do it. If there is consistent data set, probably you can. But even in that case, you would have a mix of data set. So you would have OR, Ohio, IL, PA, IL, KY, Texas. It will not be consistent data set. But what AI has done is AI understand that OR refers to a state when I'm talking about addresses, and it gives me that data. So not only am I extracting the data, I'm also making it consistent. So now, of course, you can do this in Excel. You can create a translation table. You can create a VLOOKUP table. You can get it from there. But AI already has that knowledge. So you can easily do this. And because these things are quite definitive, OR in terms of state would only be one state. So this is something where you can rely on AI training, AI data. And as of now, I'm using 3.5. Remember, I selected 3.5 as the model, which is the lowest model in terms of training. If you start using better models such as GPT-4 or GPT-5 is about to come out, then your accuracy is going to be a lot better. Now let's look at another example where I have house numbers. And this again is slightly different because house number with city name or state name, there is a metadata attached to it. Oregon is a state, but a number is a number. So how would AI know that this is a house number and not a zip code? So somehow AI has to know this, has this knowledge that maybe zip code comes after the state or zip code is at the end and the house number would be in the beginning. But at the same time, you'll see the data is consistent. House number is also, it's not 2-letter, 3-letter, 2-digit, 3-digit. It's different, 4-digit also, 3-digit also. In some cases, I do not even have a house number. So AI is more likely to get confused here because there is a number which is not the house number. And I want to extract this. So let's see if AI does this. So this is my prompt, and you'll see the prompt is slightly different. I have the same usual thing, give me the house number from this. Just give me the house number as output, nothing else. For example, 5453, or you can give any example. If there is no house number, just say no. So what I'm trying to do is create conditional logic here, like an if condition. If you find the house number, give me that house number. If you don't find the house number, give me no. This might not work, okay? So if it works, it's good, but this might not work. But let's see what AI does. So we have the house number here. And it has worked. So AI is being very kind today. You can see here, I have no here because there is no house number in this case. I have no here because there is no house number. But if you look at all the house numbers, it has extracted the right part. It has not given me the pin code. It has given me the right house number. Why? Because it has the data. It has the training data. It knows that house number should ideally be close to the name, close to the street name, and not after the state. So because AI can recognize these things, it is going to extract these things a lot better. Now, one interesting thing that happens is, remember I chose GPT 3.5 initially when I was doing this. Let me show you something interesting. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to change this from GPT 3.5 Turbo to GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K. Now, OpenAI says these are the same model with just one minor change, which is this model, which is 16K, is a little faster and it gives you longer output. But otherwise, the training data is the same. That is what they say. Let me save these settings and run this prompt again. It doesn't work in all the cases. You see, it gives me no here, but I do have a house number here. So what I want to show you in this case is different models would work differently. When you are working with AI formulas, AI in Excel formulas, experiment with different models. See what is working for you. Because this is now a theory, because they are trying to give you faster results with GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K and longer results, they have somehow compromised on the accuracy of the data. So GPT 3.5 is working a lot better in this case as compared to GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K. So experiment with these models. Let me go back and change the model to GPT 3.5. So far what I've shown you is we started with fairly useless example of writing a poem and short story where we were generating text, which is what these ChatGPT kind of prompts are for, is to generate stuff. But then we moved away from it, and then we gave our own data and we asked it to analyze it, and so far AI has been doing a decent job. But one area where AI actually really shines is analysis of long text. So you can have employee survey data, you can have airport reviews, place reviews, and you can then quickly analyze large amount of data with AI. So I can quickly say, I want to analyze the sentiment of, let's say, reviews. So can you analyze the sentiment as, let's say, positive or positive, negative, neutral? AI can quickly do that. And without you having to read through it, it can actually analyze the sentiment. And then you can quantify those sentiments. So let me give you a very simple example where what I've tried to do is I have these airport reviews, and this is the airport reviews of Sofia. These are 10 reviews. What I want to do is I want to analyze the sentiment. Yeah, pretty bad reviews. I don't know why. But so I want to analyze the sentiment, but at the same time, I want to quantify this text data. Now, how do I quantify this? I'll show you. Now, to do this, I've also used something you guys probably already know about it, is Power Query with pagination. So I've used Power Query, but I wanted to fetch this data from a website. So this is the website. This is the website from where I've taken this data. It has 10 reviews. But sometimes you may want to work with 50 reviews or 100 reviews. So here at the bottom, they have these numbers, where if you click on 2, then it will open page number 2. If you click on 3, it will open page number 3. Now, thankfully, with Power Query, you can extract all this data together, combine this data, and get a list of like 100 reviews. I'm not going to show you 100 reviews because that somehow makes Power Query miserably slow. But I'm going to give you this file, and it has the Power Query that can connect with 10 pages or 5 pages. So let me quickly open Power Query and show it to you. So I'll go to Data, and Queries and Connections. And these are the queries that I have. Let me open this. How much time do I have? Anyone? 4 minutes. OK, perfect. So I'll be very quick. So here, I have this data, and I have this parameter where I have the airport. And I created this query where I extracted the data from each page, but then I converted it into a function, and then I started with the list. And this list right now just have 1, but if I make this, let's say 3, then it is going to get data from 3 pages, because now this list is going to get converted into a table, and then it is going to fetch the data. So this is a table. This becomes page number 1, page number 2, page number 3. So again, not my topic. I'm going to give you this data, and you can play with it. What I'm going to do is go back and just stick to 1. So now, let's go back. And let me quickly now put these functions here. So I want to analyze the sentiments. I would put something like, this is my prompt where I'm analyzing the feedback, and give me whether the feedback is positive, negative, or neutral. Just give me one word, positive, negative, or neutral. Don't give me more than one word. So you see, I'm repeating this again and again. It probably will listen, probably won't. And then I'm using GPT-4 in this case because I also wanted to show you how you can use another model, which is GPT-4. So just GPT-4 in double quotes. And now when I run this prompt, GPT-4 is better at analyzing text. So see what happens. It is going to give me negative, negative, neutral, negative. And now I can do it. So now I've not read any of these reviews, but I was quickly able to analyze this data and get just one single word, which I can quantify. But this is okay, this is high level thing, but I also wanted to quantify other things. So if I'm airport in charge, I want to know what's going wrong. Is it bags or baggage, or is it facilities? So I can have these prompts. And let me quickly put these prompts. So these are similar prompts, but what I'm asking is in a review, is bags or baggage mentioned or not? Now, the good thing with GPT is, AI model is, it is not going to look for the word bags or baggage. It is going to look for anything which is similar to bags or baggage. So if it mentions hand baggage, suitcase, luggage, it is going to pick up any of these and consider that as relevant, because it understands that these are semantic keywords. For example, college and university, related keywords. So it would understand that these are related. So now I have this data. I have negative, positive. I have yes, no. Something I can quantify. So I can go back. So this is something I've created for you. It's a very simple visualization. But if I take a step back and tell you, I had reviews, 10 reviews. And in a minute, I was able to visualize it into something like a chart like this, where I can easily see I have the negative sentiment in most cases. And in the staff and security case, I have the negative sentiment. 8 people are saying it's not right. Now, these are just 10 reviews. If you do it for 100, you probably have something useful. But if I go back to Power Query, so these are the reviews for Sofia. If I go back to Power Query and I make it the reviews for some other city, let's say Changi Airport, which is Singapore, and I close and load this, and I refresh this. Now what is happening is this data would update because Power Query goes to that website, gets the data. These formulas would update now. Because it is GPT-4, it is going to hang, of course. But it is going to work. So now my formulas are working. And when my formulas have worked, I can come back to my visualization table here, and this would give me the visualization. So this is all happening dynamically because I'm able to use the right prompts with AI to extract data. So AI is not just for generating text. You can analyze text, you can clean text, and if you want, you can also quantify text. But the idea here is you need to understand how it works, understand its limitation, and work with prompt. So the last thing I want to tell you in this case, so I'm done with all the examples. The last thing I want to tell you is this. If you want to take away anything from this presentation, yeah, take away this. Oh, okay. So in this case, the first thing is prompts make a huge difference. If you see something is not working, refine your prompt. Give more examples. I gave just one example. Give 3 examples. Give 4 examples. Artificial intelligence is not about precision. Remember, even if I give it the perfect prompt, it may not give me the result. It would hallucinate. So keep the accuracy level in your mind is like 80%, 85, 90. If you're lucky, it would probably be 100%, but keep that in mind that it might not work. And AI, when it comes to Excel, is artificial intelligence, but it is also always investigate. Always investigate what it gives you. Go through the data, check everything else, and once you're satisfied with it, you can apply it for a larger data set. Now again, this is in a very nascent stage. This formula is going to evolve. New models are going to come up. But as of now, what you have, you can still use it in Excel. So I hope that I've given you something where it's gone from being useless to maybe partially useful or somewhat useful. All right. So yeah, that's it. Thank you, guys. If you have any questions. Yeah.
The formula that you used in Excel had 3 commas towards the end.
3 had what?
Towards the end of the formula, one
Yeah,
of the formulas, there were
because
3 commas towards the end. What do those commas represent?
So there are 3 optional arguments it takes. The last one is the GPT model, but it takes the temperature and the token. So I left it as is because I've already specified that in the settings.
I see.
But I can specify temperature and the tokens in the formula as well, and it will override the default setting.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a costing question, but if you are to use the same prompt 16,000 times, would it charge you every time for each line, or would it charge you just once?
No, it will charge you every time, but the charges are based on the number of tokens that are generated or the number of words that are generated. So if you have a prompt that is 100 word long and you want to generate an answer that is again 100 word long, then you'll be charged for 200 words. So every time you send that to API, back to API, it is going to charge you.
Okay, so it's going to be quite expensive for 6,000 rows.
Yes, it is going to be quite expensive, unfortunately, because unlike ChatGPT, where you can actually put something and then ChatGPT can refer to the history, so you can ask ChatGPT for a poem, it gives you a poem, but then you say, no, I don't like it, maybe refine this, add this. It can refer to the history back, but in Excel, it doesn't work that way. So you will have to, unfortunately, spend that much money.
Okay, thank you.